Hi, folks, and a lovely spring summer afternoon here in Wirral. Been a lovely day again. Just coming online. A friend of mine sent me an article over, so thank you, Bipinda, for raising this, bringing it to my notice. And it's called. It's from This Is Money, so it's their article. We'll credit them to their article. I'm just going to do a critique on it, to be honest with you. And what it's called is 10 red flags buyers must look for when viewing a home. So they say that prospective buyers only spend an average of 43 minutes viewing a property before they put an offer in. Well, I'll come to it. I think that's wrong because your bookings are normally 15 minutes ago. So you normally go and get an agent, have a viewing, and they give you a 10 to 15 minute time slot. So you don't get 43 minutes. So I think your average is a little bit out there, unless you're meaning the total number of viewings. But most people will put an offer in after the first viewing, to be honest with you. From what from my knowledge, I tend to put offers in certainly after the first one, and my first viewing is typically 10 minutes because I do a bit of work beforehand, research, etc. And I know what I'm looking at. I video as I go around, and if I need to do a follow-up viewing, I will. But again, it won't take more than 10 minutes, so 20 minutes total viewings. At a stretch, I would have said. Remembering that I've got video footage, photographs, etc. But that's what I do. So they say, but it pays to take time. Research suggests, crucially, buyers should not feel rushed into making a decision without carefully kicking the tires of any home they're interested in buying. I totally agree. That's right. Yeah. So below the written, reveal 10 problems most prospective buyers forget to check when viewing a property, and later regret, and this is according to their exclusive research from eServe. Nearly 2/3 of those surveyed census-wide, commissioned by eServe, said they would take more rigorous approach when viewing a home next time. 15% of 2,000 people quizzed said they checked nothing at all properly and in a property before putting an offer in. Meanwhile, 43% said they uncovered problems with their property within 4 months of moving in. So they've used this survey and they've said they've come up with 10 red flags. Now, I think as investors, obviously these people are talking as people who are buying their forever homes, their homes, not investment properties. But it still makes sense to go through it and do a little critique on it. So the first thing they go is windows and doors. Windows that will not close properly, drafts sneaking through loose frames, and locks that don't quite feel secure are easily missed during a viewing. Yet these are all issues that could be spotted simply by opening and closing and giving the fittings a once over before putting an offer in. Poor windows and doors were most commonly missed issues during home viewings, according to research. Now, I agree. Yes, open and close the windows, check the handles. To be fair, if we buy a house now, we change all the window locks, all handles, and put new ones. And if we need to put new mechanisms, we do. So that's figured into our numbers. However, the other thing I'd be looking at is when you open the window, you have the little rubber seal around the inside of the window frame and around the outside of the window, which joins together and forms that seal. Check that, because that can perish and become brittle over time and may need replacing. And some of the older ones, it's hard to get the seals for, and so it might cost you a bit more money. Some of the newer ones, they're dead easy to get seals for, and you can replace them yourselves. Done it myself, both, to be honest with you. So that's my first additional stuff on their windows and doors. Hidden renovation costs is number 2 on their list. Now, what they say is a fresh coat of paint can mask a multitude of sins. I agree, yeah. For some buyers, what looked like a move-in ready home turned out to need costly renovations. These unexpected works are often invisible at first glance, but can add significant unplanned expense to the final bill. Failing to spot to see where hidden renovations will crop up is the second most common issue missed during viewings. Now, I agree, yes, coat of paint can cover a multitude of sins, and I'm going to mention the same thing I'm going to say numerous times mostly throughout this video, is get a surveyor's report, home buyer's report. If you're not sure what you're looking at, get a home buyer's report. But a caveat to that, I've seen, from properties I've been around viewing, one of the classic ones is they try and cover up signs of damp. And I've seen it where on party walls or exterior walls where it's fresh coat of paint, you look at it and you can see there's it's obviously been done a few weeks before, and already the damp is showing through like a little thin line. And if you put if you carry a damp meter with you, which I do when I'm viewing, slap that on, it's usually through the charts. And this is not the paint drying out. This is the fact they covered the damp up without dealing with the issue. So what they should have done is chop the plaster back to a meter up, sort out the damp issues, membrane it, dry, put a chemical damp-proof membrane in, which is just drill in, you put dry rods in, and then actually you put a membrane on the wall, dot and dab it and skim it over. And people tend to skimp on this side of it. If they're selling the house on, they'll just paint it over and hope that no one notices, maybe do a little bit of filling. So yeah, that's one of the common ones to be careful of. And the other thing is Artex, and that's something you should look at. I've just viewed a house today which had damaged Artex, and this can also hide a multitude. Well, first of all, it can cause problems because it may contain asbestos. So it's an ACM, asbestos containing material, so it needs to be dealt with appropriately. Now, I'm trained to deal with asbestos. I know how to remove it safely. I know how to wrap it up and tip it. But that's the training I underwent in a previous life and previous job, actually, which transfers over. However, your average person in the street most probably doesn't know how to deal with asbestos, and they have to get an expert in to deal with it. So yeah, asbestos can be one of those hidden renovation costs. And which leads me neatly onto damp and mould, actually, which I've just covered in one before. So it might start as a faint smell or discoloured patch on the wall, and that's what's about new paint being discoloured. But for over a quarter of buyers, damp and mould only became apparent after the keys were handed over. So it's freshly painted, it can cover it up for a while. Especially they use these damp resistant paints, but they haven't dealt with the damp issue, but they covered it with damp resistant paint or damp stain block. So that can actually reduce the impact of it initially. But unless you've solved the root cause of the damp, you're going to have problems. So you need, that needs to be tackled as well. So beyond cosmetic damage, these problems can lead to long-term structural issues and even health risks if left untreated. Yeah, I agree. Health risks, you got mold spores, etc. If the damp gets into the woodwork or the brickwork and it deteriorates, the woodwork rots, yeah, you can end up with structural issues. I've just refurbed the house, suffered from damp. I've had to reduce the chimney stack on one end and rebuild the gable end because of damp ingress. And then we've had to replaster all that inside, strip it back, treat the damp issue, membrane it, damp-proof course in there, and dot and dab and reskim. So yeah, but I knew those problems were there. I'd already seen them, to be honest with you. So, but these are things you need to look out for. And what you'll get is, if there is damp in there and it's been damp for a while, you'll smell this musty smell, and there'll more than likely be evidence of mold, which is the fruiting body. You'll see the fruiting body of mold, which is when you can actually see it visible. They releases spores, and yes, that can cause respiratory issues and stuff like, or exacerbate existing conditions. So definitely something to be aware of. Number 4, heating and boilers. A quarter of homeowners surveyed said they encountered heating problems shortly after moving in, often related to aging systems and underperforming radiators. Asking a few questions about the boiler's age and recent servicing history may save a few freezing evenings, etc. Coupled with that, yeah, you could ask a few questions. You can also, if it's been done via a approved contractor, a competent person scheme, it'll be registered on building control, and you can check that as well. Also, there tends to be a little label on it. Check the details. You can find out how old that boiler is. If you look at the label, take a photograph of it, go back, you'll find out how old it is. Get it serviced when you move in. Yeah, these are things you look at. Again, building surveyor's report may pick that up, but if I'm leaving a boiler in, it's getting serviced when I move in. If I think it's still of reasonable age, I'm checking TRVs, if needs be, replacing radiators if needs be, because sometimes they can have hidden problems. They can be rusted, and if covered by radiator guards or radiator covers, you need to check under them. So yeah, definitely. Number 5, electrical problems. So electrical issues are among the more expensive fixes and often do not reveal themselves until the property is lived in. During viewing, ask about the electricals and consider getting a professional to check the wiring. It's also worth making sure property has good broadband provisions, particularly if you work from home. Now, I'd go further than that. If you're looking at property and you open up the electrical cupboard and have a look at the consumer unit, the most modern ones tend to be metal now, and the very old ones are those old domino type plug-in cartridges with a little piece of wire. I'll tell you one thing, if you see that Domino's one there, it's a full rewire. Simple as. If you see a relatively modern consumer unit, then it may not need a rewire, but it may full rewire. It may need a partial one, or it might not need it. But in the end, I would always get my electrics checked out by a professional electrician who's competent. And I've just done a podcast on this. I have a podcast, Efficiency in Property Investing. I'll put a link in the comments below for that. I've just done an episode on choosing the right electrician, which covers all this sort of thing. So yeah, get it checked out by a proper electrician. I did when I bought my own residential property before I became a property investor. An electrician come in and do a full survey, electrical survey of the property. It saves a lot of hassle, believe me. In fact, consider getting an EICR certificate. If you're an investor, you do it anyway, obviously. And it's similar with the gas, you'd have to get gas safe for your gas boiler as well. So if you two different things. If it's your own personal property, you wouldn't do that. If the rental property, you need gas safe certificate. You need EICR as well. Plumbing issues comes in at number 6. Low water pressure, hidden leaks, and failing pipework can all go unnoticed during a whirlwind of property viewings. A quick test of taps, flush the toilet, highlight some early red flags, resolving leaks, ailing pipeline, etc. If I'm buying a property, I get my plumber to check it, to be honest with you. But a home buyer survey should pick that up as well. They should be checking the tap pressure and raising concerns for you if they find issues with that. Roof trouble, just add that, to be honest with you, with a property. Same again with a property and refurbing. Roof trouble, broken tiles, leaks, and general wear and tear can go undetected until heavy rainstorm hits or surveyor flags an issue. During the viewing, it is essential to ask how old the roof is and get a sense of how it should be holding up. Getting a new roof or even getting it partially fixed can be expensive, and yeah, it can be. And if you do over 20% of that roof, you need to have it done with building control involved, and a structural engineer involved to check that. And the reason for that is, if it's an old property and it's got the original slate roof on it, and you put tiles, well, the original roof structure is designed to take the weight of slates, not tiles, and tiles are heavier. So a structural engineer needs to come in and he will tell you whether you need to put any methods of strengthening inside the property. I'd go further. Yes, I've seen properties with slip tiles, and that means that I know there might be issues with it. You can't always see the issues. I've seen the issues. I can see the exterior issue, but you can't always see the interior issues of the wood, the timber framing and etc. And not always can the surveyor do, because he's not going to walk around in the roof space if it's not boarded out. He may go up if it's boarded, but normally they're not insured to do that. They just go up, put their head and shoulders above, give it a look over. They won't see everything, guarantee you. So this is something you need to be aware of. If the ridge tiles are moved, potentially there's damage to the ridge beam. So these are things that you pick up along the way. Loose mortar on the chimney stack, deteriorating mortar if the chimney stack's got a bit of a lean. Yeah. So be aware. Gardens and outdoor spaces, they can be an afterthought, but was a source of regret for over a fifth of homeowners, according to eServe. A thorough work around the property outside can reveal more than expected, whether it's boggy earth, overgrown bamboo, boundary issues, or a sunless garden. You need to be sure a sunny day. Sure, any outdoor spaces will suit your needs and lifestyles. If, for example, you are looking for a property with a north-facing garden, think you'll miss your evening glass of wine outside the sun. Think whether it really is the right property for you. Now, I go further. Obviously, I do investment properties. Certainly cracked concrete, heaved concrete, cracked slabs, blocked grids, Japanese knot fitted. Keep an eye out for that. That's a big issue, and it can make your property very difficult to remortgage or mortgage. Yeah, bamboo. There's a lot there that you can pick up in that garden. Have a good look. Is there signs of things that are wrong? Take photographs. I always video when I view a property. I'd advise you to do the same, because you may see things when you review the video that you didn't see when viewing the property. Top tip. Structural problems. So cracks on walls and floors are not always a deal breaker. It could be a sign of something more serious and worth getting them checked. So like I said, it's 15% of buyers encountered structural problems after moving in that were not noticed during the viewing phase. Also need to be alert to any substance. So if you're looking at a house, you're looking for, first of all, you're looking at the brickwork outside. Are there any significant cracks? Is there a step crack going all the way down like that? Are the cracks through bricks? The cracks through bricks are more concerning if the brick is sheared. The step cracks can happen with a slight movement. And what happens is, typically, and this is not for all of it, by the way, when people put new double glazing into older houses, Victorian houses, the UPVC frames do not have the same strength as the old wooden frames, and you may need to put a lintel above the window to take the weight rather than the UPVC frame take the weight. And what you might see is with bay windows, the bays might start to dip, and inside you may see cracks around the bay, or cracks around the interior of the window frame where it's obviously settled a bit and stuff like that. So watch out for them. Definitely, yeah, any cracks in the ceiling. So most of the time, it's just things moving. Don't forget, all the Victorian houses have been around since the Second World War, before the Second World War. So they may have been in that area that got heavily bombed, and they may have cracks that have happened because of that past historical events and stuff like that. And they may not be deal breakers, but it is always worth getting. If you see significant cracks somewhere that you're not sure about, get someone who does know about it, a surveyor, a structural engineer, a builder out to have a look for you. And number 10 for them is noise trouble. So noisy neighbours, traffic thimbles can make life difficult in the long run. Yeah, and it goes on about noisy areas, etc., etc. Roads, pubs, etc. You know, looking where the property is situated. Now, this comes down, if you're an investor, it comes down to due diligence. If you're looking to invest in a certain area, you are going there at different times of the day to see what it's like at different times of the day. You are asking questions of the neighbours. You know, what's it like around here? Is it quiet? Ask the question. If you go around late afternoon in the summer and there's no kids playing outside, or there's very few kids playing, it tends to be quite quiet. Is it by a school? Because if it's by a school, you get a certain amount of noise at certain times of day when they're dropping and picking off kids. But you also get 6 weeks in the summer where there's no noise because schools are on holiday, and it swings a merry-go-round sometimes. Yeah, so noisy neighbours can be an issue. Go around different times of day. If you can ask the neighbours what the place is like. They might not tell you if they're the noisy neighbour, obviously, but you know, this is down to your research, due diligence, etc. So that's the article, and that's my, I would say, critique. I think I've tried to add some value to their article, and hopefully you'll find that there is value added there. I actually, like I said, I do a podcast, Efficiency in Property Investing. The link will be down below. I've done top 10 mistakes and top 10 tips for people, investors buying property. There's episodes there on that. And like I said, I've just done one on choosing the right electrician. I've done it choosing the right, I haven't done choosing the right plumber yet. I'll do that one soon. But I've done choosing your business account, choosing your conveyancer, choosing your accountant, etc. So it's a bit of a guide for, certainly for people buying a residential property, but also mainly for newcomers to property investment. So with that said, I'll leave it there. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Keep moving forward. And please like, subscribe and share to my podcast, Efficiency in Property Investing. Links in the comment below. Costs you nothing to share, but means a huge amount to me. And I'm really grateful for all the support. So have a great evening. Keep moving forward. Speak to you next time.